Oh, yeah. I mean, where my face has gone missing again. All right. So, I mean, I was just about to go to bed, but then I saw this, and obviously now, now we have a thing to talk about. Um, like, how do we how do we process this? I mean, this is a bit of a mad one. So let's just have a quick read through this list because there is something sort of obvious about this, which I think is fine, and then there's another bit which I think is completely not fine, and that's kind of the thing that I really want to address. So, obviously, Flesh and Blood latest ban restricted list has literally just come out. This is the calling Taiwan. Okay, that's important, but that's not what we're here to talk about. So the main takeaway, firstly, for all of those who haven't had a chance to read it yet, is that there are no changes to the banned and restricted list for Classic Constructed for the meta right now. Okay? That's perfectly fine. I have said on multiple occasions that while I feel Stavro is very strong, and it is clear that there are problems with LSS's testing, in that Stavro has gone from 0 to 100 in no time at all, I feel like he is fine. There is counter to him in the meta in the form of Viserai, in the form of Prism. Those decks do actually find a way to counter him. I feel like you can get the Prism matchup favourable into Starvo. I feel like you can get the Viserai matchup favourable into Starvo to an extent, and I feel that's fine. It is fine to have a deck on the top of the meta. It is fine for the Living Legend system to work normally without any changes and just see how the thing happens. What is not okay about this announcement? Okay? We're in the midst of an extensive international tournament schedule, with the following Classic Constructed events taking place over the coming weeks. Here's a list. Stavro could very easily become Living Legend. He has 814 points. This is 150, 250. If he wins literally every single one of these events, he will be Living Legend by the time the Pro Tour happens, right? Okay? Great. But, here's a big but. So what have we heard about the Living Legend system before? We have heard the Living Legend system is applying basically the changes when the next draft set comes out. That's what we've heard. We've heard if something gets Living Legended, then the next time a draft set comes out, it will change then. Okay? But here we're saying that if Bravo achieves Living Legend by the time the May the 2nd comes around, so after all of these tournaments, if he wins all of them, he'll get Living Legend status, and then he will be retired. Okay? Now, if he doesn't, he'll still be legal for the Pro Tour in May. Now, this is a really big deal, in my own opinion, because this line right here. This approach is intended to put the challenge of exploring a revised metagame in the hands of the elite group of players taking part at the Pro Tour. Now, I'm going to the Pro Tour. I'm super keen about it. I'm really keen to go. It's going to be a great fun. What I don't have, especially for a game as new as Flesh and Blood, for one that is still getting established, a lot of people are going to this as their first Pro Tour. A lot of them haven't come from Magic, haven't come from other environments. They're going into this as their first high-level competitive event where the pressure is already very, very high. And realistically, even if Stavro got banned or changes were made today, he would still, they would still only have just over a month to refine a deck, practice a deck, and get set up for that tournament. Really, what you're saying is that between this date, May the 2nd, and the tournament, which is on the 14th of May, they have 12 days to pick a deck, practice a deck, and get really confident and happy saying it, right? That is fine for a certain number of people. Okay, maybe those are the people that we want to get playing the Pro Tour. but there are 400 people qualified for the Pro Tour. I guarantee the number of people I can count on the top of my hands who will be ready and able to practice going from a new meta into a brand new deck in 12 days is very, very small at this particular point in the game. I think this hurts far more people than it benefits, and even if those players who don't have jobs or can dedicate a lot of time to Fab end up coming out on top, I feel like it's punishing a lot of people who are treating this as the first Pro Tour to go to, and as a more, it's not a casual event, you still have to qualify, but this is the first Pro Tour. A lot of people have paid a lot of money to go because it's the first. It's naturally going to have a bit more of a casual field because ELO isn't set up, because people got in on XP invites rather that they could earn locally rather than having to win a Pro Quest. It's automatically at a lower competitive level than future Pro Tours might be, and you're drastically punishing all of those people who aren't going to have basically those 12 days to figure out what the meta is. The other problem, of course, is that if Bravo gets Living Legended, right, we see that happen. If that happens, what else is going to change in the meta? There's been a lot of predictions from people like Tarek Patel, Arsenal Pass, all those guys, even myself and my predictions, that if Stavro gets Living Legend and nothing else changes in the meta, then Viserai will just dominate the format, right? And I firmly stick to that opinion. Viserai is a very, very strong deck. It is being kept in check by Stavro. Stavro is a little bit countered by Prism. Viserai counters Prism pretty hard. And maybe there's a bit of Lexi kicking around. But the fact is that, like, Viserai will dominate that meta unless you also ban something from Viserai then. So at the point where Stavro gets Living Legended, are we talking about just Stavro being changed? Or are we talking about Stavro being changed and also 2 or 3 other changes to the other top classes, like the ones that people have been suggesting all week? If those 3 things happen, with 12 days to go, with 12 days to get the cards, with 12 days to, you know, test those decks, I just think it's a bit unrealistic. And I really think that this line, and I actually, you know, I've said this before, I really applaud this approach. I like going into a Pro Tour with like a new set coming out 3 weeks before, or, you know, lots of new cards to deal with, or a ban change and things to address with. But I really don't think it's the right fit for this Pro Tour. I really think a lot of the people who are going aren't going to be ready for this. And I really think that leaving it up to fate at this point, when a lot of people are wanting to get started on practice, want to get into a really comfortable position, is just a mistake and just a bit unfortunate. Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of really my takeaways. Also, you know, I feel like this line is just a lie. I feel like skirmishes are weird. Skirmishes are very weird, okay? Because skirmishes are a lot more people are playing Blitz, a lot more people are playing the heroes that they enjoy rather than necessarily the best hero. A lot of people are, you know, and that reflects local metas a lot as well. And skirmish really reflects local metas a lot as well. So if you don't have a lot of Viserai players in local metas, then things will change. But I think anyone who has spent a lot of time with this skirmish season at, you know, calling, well, not at callings, but at battle hardens and, you know, larger skirmishes. I mean, there was 100+ person one in the UK, knows that Viserai is dominating skirmish. So even if the results from tournaments are showing this, that's a case of not enough data to point to the correct information. And I'm very, you know, let's talk about this, because I'm obviously casting the calling in Krakow next week. That's going to be really fun. Like, it's going to be really fun. There's so many rounds. The best decks are going to come. And Viserai is going to be there. And he's going to do really, really well. And it's going to be a really great and really fun event. And I'm going to love it. And I don't mind if one deck is dominating the meta. That's fine. There's going to be... But my bet for all of you guys, and I'll be able to tell you because I'm there, is that we'll have 4 Viserais in the top 8. Maybe 5. I'm going to go with 4. I feel like 4 is a nice, powerful but conservative bet. And I reckon the top 4 is going to have at least 2 in as well. And I suspect that Viserai will be in the final. That's my bet with you guys. If I lose, I don't know, I'll do something. But my point is that I feel like this is not an accurate reflection of the skirmish meta. This is a bit of a dick thing to do to a lot of people who are spending a lot of money on flights and things to come to your event. I really don't agree with it, to be honest. And that, I just think it's not enough time. And I feel like I'm not speaking about myself. Like when I want to, I will know Life Fab. So once that we know, I'll already start practicing the decks I think are going to be good. And I'll practice with and without Stavro in the meta, and I'll just practice twice as hard, right? But I know that there are a lot of people who are, because of the stage the game is at, still working up to playing this game quite intensively. And I really don't feel like they deserved this for the first Pro Tour when the invites were so wide open to everyone. I really don't think it makes sense to those guys to have, only 12 days to prepare and know the meta. And it's not like there isn't a lot of practice you can do beforehand, but I feel like you shouldn't be leaving it up in the air. And I feel like people weren't expecting this because you told us that Living Legend wasn't a balancing mechanic and that Living Legend would therefore not apply until the next main draftable set came out, so you could include an updated token or whatever. So changing that, and now it is a balance mechanic, I feel like, LSS, you kind of need to get your communication clearer on this so people can start to rely on what you're saying. And I imagine we're going to see a lot of that coming out of the community response to this. Anyway, I am actually going to go to bed because it is 12 o'clock and I am still sick. Thanks everyone who jumped in for this quick impromptu live review. I'm sure there will be more less than hot takes and people telling me I'm wrong over the next few weeks. But, I thought this was quite fun and I'll speak to you all soon.